Okay, so I also, on the same page as Fabrici, wanted to say that what I do is chill with kids in the forest. And I host what I call explorations in ecology meetups for kids about 5 to 15. So here's the quick summary of my talk. Things are a mess. Industrial civilization is the cause. We must return to a kinship worldview and way of relating to the world, or we're doomed. Ecological education can help. And ultimately, I want to chat with you all a tiny bit about how I do ecological education. This is so disconcerting that I can't see anybody's faces. Anyway, it's all good. So we're in a poly crisis. You all know that. If I had an addition to the story, well, yeah, we're in a poly crisis. Ecosystems are collapsing. Our social systems are collapsing. Our industrial civilization is collapsing would be a good thing if it would only die in peace, which it's unlikely to do. Um, the only thing I think that I would tell about this story that might be new to some of you is that I think that all of the things that suck about industrial civilization follow from ecophobia, follow from our fear of nature. Um, so many different indigenous scholars talk about kinship worldviews. And essentially, the message is that the industrial civilization has us as all separate from nature. Vanessa Andreotti calls it the myth of separation. Um, and indigenous worldviews tend to see us as part of nature, both physically and spiritually. So ecological education is one path to helping children develop ecophilia. I love this particular slide. It's one of many I have that show kids sitting in awe of nature. And it's one of the unexpected, beautiful surprises that I get from being able to hang out with the kids in the forest. So through ecological education, I think children learn how ecosystems are a dance of interdependence between diverse beings. And they learn that through their observations, and they also become a dance of interdependence. This is a group of kids who were doing some natural building together, and no cooperative games that I invented to kind of, trick them into hanging out with each other. They just spontaneously self-organized to do this building together. So my big theme is that by participating in educational environments and communities that are more like forests and less like factories. So it's interesting because I do have an agenda that I do want kids to learn about interdependency ecosystems. I want them to learn ancestral skills. But I also don't want to push or force anything. So the big theme for me is what does it mean to be an educational environment that's more like a forest and less like a factory? So here's a list of things that we do together that feel like playing in the forest. For me, I want to take, like, I'm sure that you all have an intuitive view of kind of, well, like forests and factories are very different. And I first started calling most public schools factory schools. Like Fabrici, I had a horrible experience in them. And I noticed that they looked like factories and that they processed children like factories. You were moved from grade one to grade two to grade three, just like some part or a car moving along a assembly line in the classic assembly line style. Um, I focus on some particular things. So for me, factories feature predominantly top-down control, and this is implemented in factory schools by teachers being the boss, and I had to fill that role once. I think teachers in public schools are heroes, but I think the situation they're put in is awful. Factories relationships are kept as as, oops, typo, independent as possible, not as interdependent as possible. They also feature conformance to standards and a linear, tightly scheduled flow. It's amazing, the bell schedule in school, just like bells and punch cards in a factory. On the other hand, forests feature bottom-up control, no kings in ecosystems. They self-organize through the self-directed activity of the participants, of ecosystem contributors. The relationships feature rich interdependence. Everything is connected with everything else, often in many different ways. When I talk to the kids about ecosystems, I talk about all of the relationships between a bunny and a plant that they might be nibbling on. They're feeding the plant as the plant feeds them. They feed it carbon dioxide. Other animals scatter seeds for plants. So the interdependence is very rich. They're powered by diversity, and there is a responsive flow of activity. Now, I have a lot of friends who advocate that schools should be just like forests and should just be free and independent play and exploration. But as I said, I have an agenda. I want these kids to learn how to grow their own food because I think they may have to, and because it will bring them into closer relationship with nature. So, and I want them to be able to gather food and build and do basic things that, we now call um, basic skills of reading, writing, and arithmetic. I find that ironic when probably 95% of people living under industrial civilization, we don't know how to feed ourselves. That's a basic skill. So, because I do have an agenda, I work to integrate factory and forest-like patterns. So, integrating the independence. So I focus on adult-supported interdependence. I hold circles with kids, which gives them an opportunity to get to know each other and to do shared decision making, as Fabrici mentioned. We play games that are not competitive, that instead they are cooperative, but they're also not the sort of stilted school-like games. They're games like the systems game, where they act out interactions that they observe in ecosystems. And kids love to do that, and they learn system theory by playing games like that. I am probably really close to out of time, so I'm going to zoom along. We also feature shared control. Again, Circle is a place where we make decisions together. I offer activities to kids, but if they don't want to do them, we do something else. I spend a lot of time, both literally and figuratively, following kids, their interests, and where they want to go. And one of the things I love that happens is a lot of the games I play that feature learning about nature, the kids will modify them as we go, and they often call their modifications cheats. But they're adding incredible things to the game. We play a game called Nature Tag, which starts out with me just saying pine trees versus oak trees up here is an obvious distinction. So I say, run to a pine tree, um, and or run to an oak tree. So one of the kids invented a cheat, which is they picked up an acorn and they said, I'm holding oak. And so this led to this new addition to the game, which resulted in them, of course, learning all kinds of things about how to identify trees by their parts. This particular kid, my wife once asked her what we had done during what she learned during class, and the child replied, "Oh, nothing." And then proceeded to say what she had been doing, which is like picking up pieces of oak bark and versus pine bark and all kinds of lovely stuff like that. And we also feature commonality within diversity. We get there by the fact that I honor and value the kids' diversity. I don't try to age match kids like factory schools do, which sort of makes it very obvious that they're diverse learners. I do constant ongoing individual assessment, which looks nothing like standards-based assessment. It looks like me watching a kid carving and seeing where their skills are at, or asking questions and engaging in conversations with kids. And yeah, and linearity within responsiveness is just the idea that there are sometimes we do things in order. Like I have a Lego activity that I love where the kids learn about the importance of decomposition by me just telling them they can't take it, giving them a limited set of Legos and saying you can't take anything apart, and them quickly learning that breakdown in ecosystems is just as important as synthesis. And I like to do that before we go to the compost pile and look at it and look at de decomposition happening in action. And I